89% of Republicans in Congress vote with the president 100% of the time. With that stat in mind, it makes you wonder who's voting the most and the least with Trump, both on the Republican side as well as the Dems. So that's what we're going to look at today. We'll look at this political scorecard, and this is from the Center for American Progress Action Fund. Might be a little bit of a left-leaning source, however, the hard data should not really be controversial. And this is going to go up through September 2nd. So the Senate is much smaller. What's going on there? We've got 46 of 53 Republican senators. That's 87% have voted in total compliance with Trump. And all 53 Republican senators have voted at least 93% with the administration. Now, those numbers are obviously very high, but I don't think they're unprecedented. We don't have the prior administration numbers right in front of us to compare. But generally, when one party controls both Congress and the White House, they're going to be getting through legislation that's within their own interest. These days, I think it would be weird if Republicans only voted with Trump 60 or 70% of the time. So what about in the lower chamber? Well, in the U.S. House, we've got 196 of 220 Republicans. That's 89% have voted in lockstep with the White House. And 218 of them, that's 99% have voted with the White House at least 95% of the time. So depending on which side you're on, you might just say these Republicans, total rubber stamp, they have no independence. Or you might say Republicans are in total control. They definitely should be supporting Trump's agenda. Now, in both chambers of Congress, there's of course going to be more and less partisan seats. Even Republicans in competitive House districts are voting in near total agreement with Trump. 6 of the 8 Republican House members in seats rated as toss-ups, that's by Cook Political Report, have voted with Trump 100% of the time. The other 2 are at 95%. And in the Senate, 3 of 5 Republican senators in seats rated as toss-ups, lean Republican or likely Republican, have voted with Trump 100% of the time. So you can debate the party loyalty and polarization all you want, but I think everybody wants to know who's voting for what. So we'll break it down first here in the U.S. House, and this should theoretically cover all 435 seats. There's always going to be a couple of vacancies, but let's see what we've got here. This is an order of how often they support Trump. On the left side here, we've got the U.S. rep, then the state that they represent along with their district, then how many times they have voted with Trump out of how many eligible votes. The simplest way to think about it is going to be the percentages right here. And they also throw in the partisan rating here from Cook. So these are going to be sorted in order of percentage. And as we go through the pages here, obviously the first bunch of these are going to be all 100% Republicans voting with Trump. That's going to be up to 42 eligible votes. Some of them have a couple less because they might have been absent. So yeah, there are a lot of them, but let's get down into the little bit more competitive seats. For that, we've got a couple more pages here, and then all of a sudden we see it's not 100% here anymore. It dips down to 98 here with Kevin Kiley. And there's a whole redistricting thing happening in California, but his seat was rated as likely Republican. Now, 98% just means they did not vote with Trump on one of these votes. That's basically going to be 41 out of 42. It doesn't say what the votes are for, and we don't know what the reasons are unless you really look way into it. But one vote here and there I don't really think is a big deal. Let's keep going. This is where it really gets interesting, because now it changes from Republican to Democrat, and there's a handful of Republicans here that did not vote with Trump on a couple of votes, but that only takes them down to 95%. There's 2 more where it dips down under 90. We've got Thomas Massie in Kentucky. He voted with Trump 32 out of 38 times. That's just 84%. Relatively speaking, that's pretty low. But Brian Fitzpatrick in Pennsylvania, he's got the lowest level of support with Trump. He's at 31 out of 41 bills. That comes out to 76%. So Fitzpatrick is in a little bit more competitive district, although here it's rated as likely R. So if you're looking for kind of an independent on the Republican side, the top contenders here are going to be Fitzpatrick or Massie. Massie's been in the news a ton. He's going to face a primary challenge from somebody more loyal to Trump. But this is kind of it for right now if you're looking for somebody that has a little bit of crossover vote. But under that, it gets even more interesting. Now we see which Democrats actually start to give Trump some support. Number 1 is Henry Cuellar in Texas. He voted with Trump 28 out of 42 times. That comes out to 67%. That's only a little bit under Fitzpatrick. Now, he's in an increasingly red trending district, and after the Texas map redrawing, he might not make it after the next election. So he's been known as a conservative Democrat, and this goes to show. Now, right under him, you've got Jared Golden in Maine. He's at 64% with Trump. He almost lost his re-election last time, and his district did support Trump easily. So he's also got to try to carve out a unique voting path. The other ones on here are all from toss-up districts. You've got Marie Gluesenkamp Perez in Washington, Don Davis in North Carolina, Vicente Gonzalez again in South Texas, and Adam Gray in California. All of them at least 48% with Trump. After that, it's going to start to drop off. Here you've got some Democrats voting with Trump at least a quarter of the time. None of these are deep blue districts. It looks like the voting pattern of these reps does reflect that. A bunch of these seats, as well as the ones on the last page, those are going to be the competitive ones in the midterms. Now after this page, it's going to drop off even more. There's always an exception or two, but most of these are not extremely blue. That is until we keep going. And we're quickly going to get down to some of the Democrats that have voted with Trump only 10% of the time or less. You get down into single digits. You've got people like Nancy Pelosi here. Just 3 out of 39 times. That's 8% with Trump. How low can it go? Well, as we keep going, we get down to 7, 6, 5%. You've got someone here like Johanna Hayes in Connecticut. It's not an extremely blue district, but she's only voting with Trump 5% of the time. That's 2 out of 42 votes. And beyond that, we've got Dems that have voted with Trump only one time. 1 vote out of 42, that really could be for anything. But are there any with 0%? Yeah, there's a few. The bottom 3 here are at 0%. And then we can finish it out here on the last page. These are all zeros. And as you'd expect, these are not competitive districts. They're pretty much dark blue. Are they ever going to vote for something that Trump is on board with? Yeah, it's possible. It all depends on what it is, but unless it's something that's extremely bipartisan, I don't think any of these members are going to want to be seen supporting anything that Trump also supports. So that's the scorecard for the House. We could go down here and take a look at the U.S. Senate. So again, it's going to start with the Republicans that voted 100% of the time with Trump. Here the eligible votes get up to 165. So let's go through here and see where we get any breaks with the party. Still 100%, another 100. Here it gets under 100. Ted Budd in North Carolina voted against Trump 1 out of 160 times. That takes him down to 99%. Their other Senator Tom Tillis is also at 99. 2 Republicans are under 95%. You've got Lisa Murkowski in Alaska. She's at 94. And Rand Paul in Kentucky is also at 94. Even Susan Collins in Maine is above them at 96. So there's a lot of votes here. A lot of them are just going to be for confirmations. But for the most part, you've got a massive ton of loyalty here. Again, it's mostly expected. But what about the Dems? Which of them are most in favor of the Trump agenda? Well, according to the voting here, we've got outgoing Senator Jeanne Shaheen. She voted with Trump 45 out of 159 times. That comes out to 28%, and that's the most out of any Democrat. A lot of people might have guessed number 2. It's John Fetterman in Pennsylvania. He's at 27. The other New Hampshire Senator, Maggie Hassan, is right under that at 25. You've got new Senator Ruben Gallego in Arizona at 24. Independent Angus King is at 23. Then it's also Jackie Rosen and Mark Warner, also at 23. So the senators on this page are probably going to be considered the most bipartisan. There's at least a chance that they'll cross over and vote for or against their party in certain circumstances. Let's go to the next page. Here's more Democrats supporting the Trump agenda by fewer and fewer votes. Let's get under 10%. Here we've got a competitive seat in Georgia. John Ossoff is supporting Trump just 8% of the time. Big Senate race there next year. And it's unclear what these 12 votes are for, but just based on the percentage, relative to some of the other senators, he does look a little bit less bipartisan. Maybe that's a good thing for Georgia, maybe not. What about the last page? Who's voting with Trump the least amount? Well, coming in at 1%, it's Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Patty Murray, Chris Murphy, Ed Markey, Chris Van Hollen, and Jeff Merkley. I think most of those are going to be supporting Marco Rubio for Secretary of State. Even Tina Smith here in Minnesota. It's not the bluest state out there, but she's only at 2% with Trump. Of course, she is going to be retiring. So that's kind of where we're at on the senators and their support for the Trump agenda. Down here at the bottom, you can take a look at the source. So this covers about the first 8.5 months of the second Trump administration. It's pretty current, but things could always change as we get into next year, especially as we get closer to the next midterms. If a wave starts to develop, then you might see some of these reps or senators start to vote in different ways. It all depends on what kind of pressure there is. is and what kind of issues come up. But the last thing we'll do here is get on this spreadsheet. This will show you the senators and the individual votes that they took. And of course, this link will be down below in the description. They also have their own column here showing how often they did vote with Trump and against him, as well as their absences. This is not the exact same data as we just took a look at, so it's always good to compare different sources. Down here you've got the tab to switch to the Republican side, and here it sums up what they actually voted on, as well as the final vote and the date of that vote. If you scroll to the right, you can chronologically see more of these votes. So if you wanted a little bit more detail on how these senators voted on either side, this is a great spreadsheet. This should answer most of your questions all in one place. This should also be updated as time goes on, but again, it's really current all the way up through September. So a ton of data here, some great stuff out there if you really want to get into the weeds. But that's going to be it here for how everybody's voting in the Senate and the House. But to get it all the way to the most current data here. And there you have it. The last one here is from Michael Waltz on September 19th. Anyway, let me know in the comments. What do you think about any of this data? What do you think about how often the Republicans are voting with Trump? What about the Democrats voting against him? What do you think about the little bit of crossover vote in the middle? Who do you think is the most partisan on each side and the most bipartisan in the middle? Let me know what you think down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to help support the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.